Ladies and gentlemen, it is a beautiful, beautiful day because we get to talk about another movie, The Odyssey. And we're going to watch the Critical Drinkers video, The Odyssey, a disastrous triumph. But first, real quick, I got to give you a little bit of my thought before we do a deep dive on discussing this with him. Overall, I thought the movie was pretty good. I thought the build-up was great, lots of action. I thought Robert Pattinson was fantastic. And honestly, the people who made the major headlines throughout the trailers, Zendaya, Elliot Page, Lupita were, oh crap, I forgot her name. Please forgive me. Please forgive me. Correct me, please. But they really didn't have much part in the movie, just apart from a couple of scenes and a few minutes. And so I think that helped too. But the ending was not great, especially because the build up, like I said, was incredible. It was very poorly written. And like I said, when Robert Pattinson is the most likable, not really likable, but the most, when he's the character that you're drawn to the most and he's the villain, it's probably not a good thing. Probably not a good thing. And like I said, it was poorly written. I didn't really like this take on it. The lines weren't very convincing when delivered, and it just it just kind of felt like it wasn't a remake of the Odyssey that we all love. But let's just jump into the video and see what he has to
Well,
say,
this one's been a long time
and we'll
coming.
talk more.
Several days longer than I expected, if I'm honest. Mostly because of the fine people at American Airlines who managed to cancel my flights not once but 2 days in a row, forcing me
That's happened to me before. I got stuck in
to
Canada
embark on my own
and New York
personal
for a
odyssey
couple
just to
extra
get
days.
home. It wasn't all bad though. All that enforced leisure time did at least give me a chance to catch up on the movie itself, and so here we find ourselves. If there's one thing I never had on my bingo card for this year, it's that the most contentious, bitterly controversial, and divisive movie of 2026 would be made by Christopher Nolan, of all people. Depending on who you talk to, The Odyssey is either a disgusting cinematic abomination that completely subverts
Oof,
and disrespects Homer's
oof.
original work while shamelessly pandering to the mythical modern audience, or an undisputed masterpiece of film, the crowning achievement of Nolan's career and a strong candidate for the
Made for the people that he just discussed in the prior point.
greatest thing the human race has ever achieved. Fucking calm down, love. But no matter which side of the divide you come down on, half the movie going world is gonna despise you until the end of time itself.
Welcome to America.
Here's the thing though, dear viewer, real life is a bit more complicated and nuanced than that, and as it turns out, so is the Odyssey. And now that I've had a chance to experience Christopher Nolan's wannabe magnum opus for myself, what is my verdict? Meh. I know that sounds like a bit of a weird reaction.
Like I said, thought it was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. There was greatest movie of all time. Not even close. But I thought the movie was good.
Considering all the hype around this film, but it's the word that best sums up my feelings by the time the credits rolled. I just didn't feel much of anything. For all the controversies and culture warfare swirling around it, The Odyssey was pretty much exactly what I expected from a late stage Christopher Nolan film. Technically impressive and commendably ambitious, visually
Yeah,
dour
lots of
and
action.
bleak,
It was great.
emotionally sterile, and
But I think that another big thing is Odysseus's character. Because like in the original Odyssey, he's this I gotta get home. He's a problem solver. He's this hero, kind of. But and it's not entirely Matt, and it's not Matt Damon's fault actually, but it felt like what they had for his portrayal of Odysseus is that he's just sitting there waiting for the next bad thing to happen. He's not actually problem solving anything, and actually, a lot of time he's making things worse. And it's other people that have to step in and be like, "Hey, we should do this." And he doesn't really. It just doesn't really seem like he is a hero or that king that's trying to get back home and eager to fight off the suitors and reclaim what's his.
Weirdly lacking in pace, urgency, or satisfying payoffs, populated by
And like I said, with the villain is the best character.
cold, distant characters that give nothing away and invite no empathy from the audience, dialogue that's jarringly clunky and on the nose, often delivered by talented but miscast actors, and ultimately, an ending that fails to capitalize on its incredible build-up. It's a movie about love,
Yeah, like I said, it
yearning,
was.
adventure, wonder, mysticism,
You were expecting that whole he gets home and here we go. We're gonna fuck some shit up.
an epic mythology
I won't
woven
ruin it for you.
together by a man who either can't or won't understand any of those things. The Odyssey picks up about 20 years after the fall of Troy and the end of the Trojan Wars. Matt Damon's living on a beach with Charlize Theron with no memory of how he got there, while Zendaya
I mean, no offense to Anne Hathaway, but I think maybe I'd rather just stay on the island.
stares at him every once in a while to display her incredible acting range.
Oh,
Ha! Go on, love, show us what you can do. Anyway, this setup acts as a framing device
I
for the
almost
rest
feel
of the
bad for
narrative that
her.
gradually gets filled in the form of flashbacks. The first of which is the Siege of Troy, where Matt Damon
You are the chosen one, Zendaya.
uses the Trojan horse to get him and his men inside so they can open the gates and end the 10-year-long siege. Yep, it took him 10 years to come up with that fucking idea.
Okay. You have to keep in mind it's a stupid idea. So imagine like you're telling everybody that's upper command this idea. They're just sitting there just like, dude, you're an idiot because it's a stupid idea. Who would fall for that? Any rational person wouldn't. And because it's so dumb of an idea, I can see it taking that long to convince him to do it.
Anyway, with the war successfully over, everyone's like, guess we'll go home then. His second in command is like, shall we take the quickest, easiest, and most logical route, sir? But Matt Damon's like, nah, it'll be fine. So instead, they head
Nah.
south and end up trapped in a cave with a giant cyclops that eats a few of them. Then they escape, but Matt Damon just can't resist shooting it with his bow, which incurs the wrath of Poseidon, who blows them to another island altogether, where they run into a bunch of medieval space marines who promptly
Yeah, and like it just seems like the whole time too just keeps pissing off Poseidon all the time. All the time. He doesn't feel like he was
kill
eager to
the
get
shit
home.
out of them. It's at this point that the survivors decide they've had pretty much enough of Matt Damon's shit, and they head off to find a lovely woman named Cersei who turns them into pigs because she hates men or something. But then Matt Damon shows up and persuades her to turn them back into humans, and decides he should probably get some advice on
Will
how
you
to get
please
home
just turn him
quickly
back
because,
human?
you know, this whole journey is starting to drag on a bit now. So him and his bros literally go to hell itself and get berated by the spirit of Elliot Page for a while, then land on another island where they're told not to eat any of the cattle there or they'll all be cursed to death. So they eat the cattle,
So
and
eat all
wouldn't
the
you know it,
cattle.
their ship
Yeah,
gets
makes
destroyed in a
sense.
storm, and Matt Damon washes up on a beach with Charlize Theron, who keeps him drugged and ignorant for the next 7 years. But eventually he decides he ought to get back to his wife Anne Hathaway because it's been like 20 years now, and she's probably wondering where he got to. I mean, like, no
Jeez.
offense to Anne Hathaway or anything, but if I had a choice between her and an immortal Charlize Theron, well, I know
See,
which one
that's
I'd
funny.
be choosing. Anyway, so he makes a raft
Dude,
out of
that's hilarious. Sorry.
bits of
I was
leftover
misquote.
ship that washed up with
Oh
him
man.
and just kind of says, fuck it, let's see where I end up. And wouldn't you know it, he ends up right back at Ithaca, the very place he's been trying to get to this whole time. That was lucky. Now, while all this has been going on, Anne Hathaway's been fending off potential suitors who all want to marry her so they can become the next king of Ithaca, and as you can imagine, they're getting a bit impatient after 2 decades of being dicked around. Anyway,
Oh, for
can Anne
sure.
Hathaway hold out until Matt Damon rescues himself for the first time in cinema history? Or will Ithaca fall to chaos and bloodsheds? You know, when I see the frankly ludicrous amount of praise that's been heaped
And really,
on this movie
they had
over the
to, they
past week,
had
when I
to,
see the frank
they really had to get him, John Leguizamo, or however you say his name. Guys, I'm horrible with names. Bear with me. They couldn't have just found an old guy. He
ludicrous
why? I
amount
don't
of praise that's
understand.
been heaped on this movie over the past week. It kind of reminds me of the borderline hysteria around Black Panther a few years ago, except with pretentious wannabe intellectuals terrified of getting lumped in with the unwashed plebs if they dare to criticize Nolan's masterpiece, or just partisan culture warriors willing to say and do basically anything to own the chuds. The movie's been dogged by controversy ever since the initial casting was announced, so I guess we might as well start by addressing
I just kind of feel like too many people, especially directors, are just they're too afraid to go against what they think is a moral opinion that seems to be the popular opinion at the time. A- And at some point in time, you just gotta make what the consumer wants.
the three elephants in the room. Yes, Elliot Page, Lupita Nyong'o, and Zendaya are all in this
Peter
movie.
Youngo,
Yes,
sorry,
Elliot
yes,
Page looks just as ridiculous as you might imagine trying to run in
but
a
they didn't
heavy
really
suit
play a
of
big
armor.
part.
No, they don't have more than a couple of minutes of screen time each, and they're largely irrelevant to the story, and Zendaya doesn't even act so much as
Just
exists
looks
on
at him. Yeah,
screen. And yeah, I know it's the principle of the thing for a lot of people, and if you're really bothered by stuff like that, it's kind of like me saying I only spat in your food a little bit, so why aren't you eating it? The point I'm getting at here is that as much as these three dominated the headlines around this movie, they really don't have much of an impact on the film itself.
trying to put butts in the seats, man. Just trying to put butts in the
And they had
seats,
no impact on my perception of it. They come and go so quickly you barely even notice them. While we're talking about
which is
casting though,
probably a good
probably the
thing.
funniest bit for me was John Leguizamo as a blind old servant of Odysseus who's been given a shitty
Exactly.
white wig to try to make him look older and basically nothing else. I mean, couldn't you have just hired an actual old man? Are you really telling me
It,
that John Leguizamo was so fucking good that nobody else could play this role?
it doesn't make any
Whatever.
sense.
Ultimately, you'll either accept stuff like this or you just won't watch
Yeah, it could have been any old, white, potentially Greek guy. Oh no. Don't want to put the appropriate race in
the
the
movie in
movie.
the first place. For me, though, the bigger issue with the Odyssey is the creative philosophy behind it, and I might as well just come out and say it here. I was pretty fucking bored with this movie. Not because of the source material, not because
I,
of the labyrinthine adventure, and not because of the runtime, but because it just refuses to let me in. Nolan's slavish devotion to rendering everything into a grounded, believable tone robs the Odyssey of the very things that make it so compelling.
right? And like literally when you go up against a Cyclops and then a witch turns your boys into pigs, realism has just been thrown out the window at that point. Like it doesn't make sense. Like just stop. Just stay true to the novel.
Its mythology and its sense of wonder. It's like looking at some beautiful sculpture
Exactly.
rendered into a mathematical formula. You can sense the work and precision that went into it, but it doesn't really stir anything in you. There wasn't a single character in this movie that I could ever truly empathize with and root for, because none of them talk or act anything like real human beings. Damn man, even the fucking gods are
Exactly.
boring. I mean, really, Zendaya's the only one who takes physical form, and even then she acts more like Odysseus' conscience than an active part of the narrative. Odysseus himself is written as this weirdly cold, distant,
That is actually the perfect description of
aloof
her part.
figure who barely reacts to the things he sees and experiences. His decisions imply that he's got a strong sense of adventure, recklessness, and curiosity about the world, but his
Yes.
emotions and dialogue are the exact opposite. He's like an android journeying home with no particular sense of urgency or investment simply because he's programmed to do it. Where's the loving husband and father desperate to see his family again? Where's the absent king eager to retake the throne and lead his kingdom again? Where's the bold and witty adventurer, the compassionate leader of men? By the time the finale
Exactly. It literally just felt like he's just waiting for the next bad event to happen instead of just let's get home, let's go kill everything in our path
Rolled
too.
around, I didn't particularly care whether he made it home because he doesn't seem to care much either. The movie seems to be portraying him as a vaguely traumatized war veteran haunted by his actions at Troy and his guilt over the sacking of the city, which I get the impression wasn't really part of Homer's original story. And his various trials and setbacks are framed more as a well deserved punishment for what he sees as his betrayal of his principles, which is nice and all, but it also robs him of agency because he's no longer striving towards the goal of
Exactly. And they still could have done that and stayed true to it as well. They could have showed him have remorse for it and stayed true to the
getting
character.
home, but instead just kind of waiting for the next horrible thing to happen to him. His
Dude,
reunion with his
exactly.
son, his wife, and his vengeance against the
It
suitors should be
was
this triumphant, cathartic release of emotions that have been building through the whole movie, but it all comes
for
across as flat,
decades.
procedural, and obligatory. Just a brutal
It, I wonder if he'll mention it. I wonder if he'll mention. I wonder if he'll mention the dog.
fight in semi darkness where you can barely even tell what's going on. Shit, man, even watching an old dog finally dying after being reunited with his beloved master
After all these years, should have been in tears. No emotional impact
for the
whatsoever.
first time in years, which should be an emotional slam dunk, doesn't really hit because the character himself barely even acknowledges it. The only actor who really seems to be going for it is Robert Pattinson, who plays every trick in the book to make his antagonist as much of an obnoxious, cowardly asshole as possible. It
Yes.
works. You really do hate the guy, but if the only
Yep.
character in your movie that inspires any kind of emotion is your antagonist,
That's what I
well,
was trying to
you've
say.
got problems. Another problem here is the dialogue, not just the jarring use of American accents and modern slang, swear words, and terminology, but how fucking on the nose and clumsy it is.
10 years on this fucking beach. Let's go home.
Come on, Chris, you're fucking
Yeah. See, that's how you use the F
better
word.
than this,
That's
man.
how you
On the
use it.
technical side of things, I'll at least give Nolan props for using practical effects as much as possible and shooting in real locations. That kind of shit really is a vanishing art, and it's nice to see that level of dedication and commitment
Moana.
in modern Hollywood. I mean, I'm not entirely sure where he did his location shooting, but it doesn't look or feel anything like the Eastern Mediterranean, where it's meant to be set. With the washed out colours, overcast grey skies, and bleak windswept hillsides, it looks more like
Yeah.
Scotland in November. And I guess that really sums up the overall tone of this film. Bleak,
Yeah, like the Lord of the Rings made in 2003 had better background imaging than this movie did. It was bright and vibrant and colorful, and like he said, this was just dull and foggy. And then again with the realism. And to for horror movies, I see the appeal a little more. For this, I don't. And what I'm talking about is pitch black rooms. I get it. You're trying to make it realistic. But at some point in time, you also have to keep in mind that people are trying to enjoy a film, and if they can't see anything that's happening, that doesn't make it enjoyable. Like, it's too much
dull,
nowadays.
muted, and relentlessly dour. An adventure without spirit, a hero's journey without a hero, an epic saga without any sense of scale and grandeur, a clinical, precise, finely engineered movie made by a man of
Like,
great
yeah, see
technical
again,
skill and
like it's just
intellectual
so
power,
dark.
who can process and study every line of the source material, but who seems to lack the romantic soul and the wonder and the sheer humanity to bring it all to life. For me, The Odyssey was an impressive,
And I
thought
think it's just
provoking
because
movie
he's just trying to stay in that moral realm of don't wanna piss
with an
anybody off.
incredible cast made by one of the most successful directors of his age, and it'll probably go on to rake in
Yeah,
a lot of money and awards just like we all knew it would. But ultimately, it's a movie I'll probably never watch or even think about again. And that really is the most damning
yeah, I'll never
indictment
watch
of
it again.
all.
Not like Gladiator.
Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
I think, I mean, he is the movie critic, not me. I think he was a. I enjoyed it. Bottom line is, I thought it was pretty good, but there was a huge letdown for the ending, and he brought up a lot of good points too. but I didn't think it was that bad, especially given the trailers. Oh boy, which I thought that was dumb. It did hurt them in some aspects. Playing those trailers to try to get people in the seats, it did hurt. It did hurt them. But like I said, like I said, like he said, they're probably still going to make a crap ton of money off of this. And it's going to be successful. But there you have it. The Critical Drinker, The Odyssey, a disastrous triumph.